Penguin Random House Audio presents Flying Green, On the Frontiers of New Aviation. This is the author, Christopher de Bellaigue. Columbia Global Reports. Dear reader, everybody knows that aviation presents a major barrier to the project of reducing carbon emissions in order to slow down the process of climate change. Flying is supremely carbon-intensive, and after a COVID-induced pause, more and more people want to do it. Is there an answer to this problem, other than the evidently impossible one of getting everybody to agree to fly less often? Christopher de Bellaigue, the British journalist and author, went looking far and wide for good news about less environmentally problematic aviation, and he found it. Flying Green is the result of his ambitions, alas, mainly by air, travels around the world to talk to scientists, engineers, and businessmen who are trying to make green aviation something other than an oxymoron. In places as scattered as Switzerland, coastal California, and rural Mississippi, he met people who have started initiatives to make decarbonized jet fuel, electric-powered airplanes, and airships that use hydrogen to get off the ground. He takes us on a spirited, lively tour of these decarbonization pioneers' efforts, full of fascinating people and ideas. De Bellaigue's characters are small-scale start-up entrepreneurs, not people working for the major airlines, but as he points out, it's with such people that positive changes often originate. Their stories collectively make for that great rarity, a deeply researched work about climate change that is optimistic. Best, Nicholas Lehman, Director, Columbia Global Reports. Dedication. For Louisa. What is flying? Two problems needed solutions before a man could fly. The first involved figuring out the wing curvature, the camber, that would give the craft maximum lift. The ideal camber was identified by the Wright brothers by studying buzzards and testing the glider they had made above their bicycle workshop in Dayton, Ohio. The second concerned power and was solved by the brothers' mechanic, Charlie Taylor. He built a combustion engine whose main advantage was that it was light. The two elements came together in the Flyer, the biplane which on December 17, 1903, carried Orville Wright a distance of 120 feet over the sands of Kitty Hawk. Their first publicist was a bee enthusiast called Amos Root of Medina, Ohio. Amos loved his Oldsmobile runabout, and at $350 it was cheaper than a horse and carriage, as he would say. Hearing reports that the Wrights were experimenting with a flying machine, he drove down to attend trials, and his description of a flight, with Wilbur at the controls, appeared in the trade journal, Gleanings in Bee Culture. The time would soon come, he predicted, when we shall not need to fuss with good roads nor railway tracks, bridges, etc., at such an enormous expense. With these machines we can bid adieu to all these things. These two brothers have probably not even a faint glimpse of what their discovery is going to bring to the children of men. The early aviators often returned to themes of destiny and progress, but most of all they spoke of liberation. In the 1920s, a young Swiss called Hermann Geiger earned his pilot's license. He didn't dwell on the mechanics of the event, the particular arrangement of wood and cloth and metal that kept him aloft, high over the Alps. The word he reached for to describe his new state of being was free to invite people to experience what I had experienced, to take them into the valleys of clouds. We have learnt a lot since then, about freedom, about physics, a century's worth of producing more planes, different planes, flying them farther, faster, and designing them for a wider range of applications, and for many more people. And for most of us who fly today, the question isn't how high, or how far, or how fast, but how much. Down comes the finger, and up goes the credit card bill. After a thrill of anticipation that we're going to Rome or Dubai or Tampa, now that we have slammed the door and are heading for the airport, What is it that we are thinking? The answer is nothing. When we fly, we volunteer to become a human cargo with a slowed metabolism and depressed expectations. Flying pins us listless and dehydrated to a seat of Lilliputian proportions, unable to move, fed a diet of synthetic entertainment and alleged food while being tossed around in a cigar tube at 35,000 feet. And yet even now, like a dim memory of drawing water from a Neolithic pool, when we look out of the window and see the sun come up over the bowl of the earth and our flying machine is suspended in pure motion, we feel free. A plane is more than simply a tool of mobility. It's a silver bullet that slays the demon of distance. It's the closest thing we have to supernatural powers, springing open the cage of our immediate existence and propelling us into another. If you're someone who thinks flying's not for you, it's like saying, I won't leave the cage. In the early days of aviation, the sky's exploration was both a threat and an opportunity to the nation-state. Sovereignty, hitherto restricted to the contours of the earth, sprang above it, miles above it. The aerospace wasn't something a serious government could afford not to exploit. If you don't, someone else will. H.G. Wells understood this. He imagined the day when New York City was aflame following aerial bombardment. The war comes through the air, he wrote. Bombs drop in the night. Quiet people go out in the morning and see the air fleets passing overhead, dripping death, dripping death. Nationalists around the world understood it too. When the European explorers went to the Arctic and their aviators flew in the skies, we used to laugh at them and say, look how these stupid Europeans get themselves eaten by polar bears and blown to pieces in plane crashes. One such nationalist, Cevdet Bey of Istanbul, wrote. We did not realize that by these stupid acts, they realized their domination over the world. Now our men too have begun to crash. This is not something to grieve over. We must rejoice. For me it is the sign that we are regenerating and that we shall not die. In the First World War, the belligerents realized Wells's vision of planes in combat. By the end of the conflict, some 200,000 aircraft had been produced, mostly for reconnaissance. But a French company also found that if you mounted a machine gun in a forward position and put bullet deflectors behind the propeller blades, you could shoot from the cockpit without killing yourself. By 1925, a U.S. federal commission declared that aviation was vital to the nation's defense, and that the flying machine should be continuously improved. Subsidies doubled for airmail carriers, the government took responsibility for flyways, and Congress approved a 5-year plan for Army and Navy aircraft procurement. Glamour and convenience vied for priority in the minds of the early passengers, though with the first sign of turbulence, or a thick pea souper reducing visibility to zero, the delicate equilibrium in the passengers' minds soon gave way to a desperate need for the unmoving land. When Sinclair Lewis's character Dodsworth took to the European skies in the early 1920s, at first he was surprised by the bewildering sense of being nowhere, and of nothing happening, when in fact he was, the view from the window confirmed this, perhaps a mile up in the air, and he laughed at his earlier nervousness. His good humour lasted only until his plane ran into a storm, was lashed by rain and plunged like an express elevator, when 2 of his neighbours, the first typing at a typewriter, the second sousing himself with cognac, were sick into paper bags. Helpless as dice in a box, Dodsworth and his fellow consignees eventually, and with ineffable gratitude, circled down to the flying field at Dortmund. Americans like Dodsworth, and real ones too, were still obliged to sail across the Atlantic to Europe if they wanted to fly, because there were few passenger flights in the US. In the land of its birth, airmail made up most of aviation, until Charles Lindbergh, that is. In the spring of 1927, Lindbergh flew out from Newfoundland with the ambition of crossing the Atlantic by himself, and suddenly the destiny of a single aviator became a matter of vital importance to millions. When the Spirit of St. Louis landed at Le Bourget on the evening of May the 21st, the waiting thousands surged towards the aircraft, pressing their bodies against its fuselage and tearing off pieces like fragments of a relic. The Lindbergh effect was instantaneous. Within 6 months of his crossing, the volume of mail moving...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?